Oh, finally it's my turn to go in. Hello, doctor. I'm Kirsten Bellows. What about my blood tests? The doctor's face changed and he said, "Unfortunately, I have no good news for you so far. Please don't worry, we still have to check it all again. We suspect you have an oncological disease, but to diagnose you properly, extra tests are needed." The doctor was saying something else, but it was all a blur and I didn't listen anymore. I don't remember how I reached home. James met me and I collapsed into his embrace right from the door, crying on his shoulder. Can you imagine? The doc said just like that. For what? How do we leave now? James hugged me tightly and said, "We'll make it." I was crying so desperately I couldn't calm down, so I decided to walk around a lake near my home. Maybe it will bring me to my senses. James offered to go with me somewhat unwillingly, but I refused. I needed to be alone for a while. In a couple of hours I came back and saw right away James's stuff wasn't in the flat. There was a note on the table. "I'm sorry, Kirsten, but I didn't volunteer for that. I need a healthy woman able to give me kids." I couldn't even cry anymore. This morning I had everything, and now I was diagnosed with a tumor and have no partner. I didn't go out for a whole week and couldn't eat almost anything. Constant nausea and vomiting got on my nerves. Here are the symptoms. Will it be like that until the end? How much do I have? A year? What do I do with this time? And I suddenly got it. If I had so little time left, I must have accelerated and put it into a good use. I was postponing so much. First of all, I withdrew all the money from my retirement account. I won't need a pension for sure, but this money helps me live the rest of my life to the fullest. Then I joined a dance class. I was dreaming about it for eternity, and now I don't have any time to be shy. Hi everyone, I'm the new student and I crave to learn how to dance. Who's my partner? The whole class stared at me in surprise, and the coach claimed I'll learn fast with this energy and self-esteem. Then she introduced me to Liam. It was his first time there too. We've been training for 2 months, and it gave me so much joy. I couldn't even imagine. Liam constantly admired my emancipation and even asked me out for a walk. Come on, that's so dull. Let's have fun in a nightclub instead. I'll be there at 9 p.m. I showed up in the club even earlier and went to the dance floor right away. Turn that up, DJ! Switch your fave tracks on! Not so long ago, I couldn't even imagine going wild like that. And today the guests are applauding me and shouting, "Come on, come on!" And Liam was among them too. "Hey, why are you standing there by the wall? Come here!" I didn't feel my feet in the morning. We had danced so much. I came to a mirror and suddenly noticed my belly was sticking out. The tumor grew. I must not waste any minute. I went to a travel agency. "Miss, I need the next flight to the sea. I really need to go today, understood? You see, the thing is, I have only a few more months to live, so I'm going to that sea today." In the plane, I thought that before I wasn't even able to return a pack of expired milk to a shop. It turned out I have so much confidence and force. The sea, sun, the beach, wow! But I am here not to have some bronze tan which will only bring my end closer. I need a motorboat, a captain, and the best surfing board ever. Hey buddy, throw that life vest here now. We have a lot to do. Salty splashes hit my face and I squealed like a child. Just wow. I didn't manage to stand on the board for long, but I stood up and kept on trying again and again. Days passed and I kept on telling myself I must have mastered it. And in 2 months I did. Even the vacationers on the beach applauded and said they'd never seen anything cooler. If not for this disease, I'd never learn how to dance and even more so how to surf. By the time I got back home, my belly grew more. Yeah, dancing is off limit now. Well, okay, then to the next matter, skydiving. The coach at the base said he couldn't let me fly with that belly, so I had to tell him about my disease. Yes, Mr. Scott, I have several more months to live at best, so I beg you, please let me go to the training. He nodded sadly and asked me to sign a paper saying the club wasn't responsible for whatever might have happened to me. Sure, I'll sign it. My training took over a month. I visited all the classes with joy and passed the exams brilliantly. But every day was harder for me. My belly grew and disturbed my walking, not to say anything about wearing a parachute, but there was no way back. The day of the jump, I was so nervous I almost changed my mind in the plane. What if I don't even reach the ground and my heart stops? Kirsten, you are dying soon anyway. Just jump out into the sky and become as free as a bird. The tumor kept on growing and my back hurt because of this burden. Maybe I still have some time to go to a swimming pool. I bet I'll feel better in the water. I barely managed to put the swimsuit on. But just as I reached the pool, acute pain pierced my stomach. "Help!" I cried out. A coach ran to me and started scolding me for coming right before giving birth. I came right before dying. I objected and screamed in pain. It was unbearable. The coach called the ambulance. "Come here right now. Her water broke." What? What water? That's all because of my tumor. The ambulance arrived instantly. "Liam, what are you doing here?" "I'm dying. Please inject me with something." He bent down and examined me quickly, and then he told me to push. "Come on, push, push." The pain was terrible. I clutched Liam's hand and cried at the top of my lungs. Soon I heard a baby crying. Liam said I had a boy. "Hi, will you excuse me for a moment? I have no time for anything now." It turned out it was not a tumor growing in my stomach, but woody. After giving birth, I had all the tests done, and they showed I had never ever had any tumor. I just had to check everything back then, instead of indulging in all serious. Woody's father, James, regrets about his decision. He visits the baby often and helps us, and my husband Liam gets on with him fine. My retirement money is wasted almost completely, so I have to start my life all over. I am so happy. Did you like the video? Then subscribe and like. Support the channel. Thank you.
My pregnant sister was dragged into the lake by two men. She screamed and struggled desperately, but it was all in vain. She was lowered into the water and held there. Now she and the child would be sacrificed. This was the end. I spent my whole life in a community where everyone knew each other. There were no means of communication or the benefits of civilization. No one could leave the city, but we didn't want to leave here either. Only pregnant women left, but not all of them returned. The elders sometimes came with the news. One of the pregnant women died during childbirth. Everyone put up with it. Only one guy gave a dressing down after the news of his wife's death. He was looking for her, shouting that he did not believe the elders. I and the whole city thought he was crazy. How could you not believe the elders? They did everything for the prosperity of the community. But a year after that incident, my beloved sister Rosa became pregnant. I was so happy. But the pregnancy was difficult, and complications appeared in the 6th month. Therefore, even then, she, along with other pregnant women, was taken out for consultation. But after that, she was gone. She didn't get in touch. She didn't write letters. Although she promised to return, I wouldn't have suspected anything anyway if I hadn't overheard my parents' conversation one day. Mom said, "It's a pity that the choice fell on Rose. She's not coming back." After this phrase, I was worried sick, and for a long time I could not sleep. Where was my sister? At breakfast, I couldn't stand it and asked my parents where Rose was, but they replied that it was probably just inconvenient for her to write to us. Nonsense! I just became more worried about Rose. I ran to her husband and told him about my suspicions, but he laughed. I was just imagining things, but this is your wife. He was unperturbed. I couldn't leave it. I needed to find my sister, and to leave the city, I needed to get pregnant. Fake pregnancy. I needed to find someone who would agree to help. And then I remembered the same city psycho whose pregnant wife died in childbirth. The guy's name was Mason. He opened the door for me and asked with a dissatisfied face what I was doing here. Blurted out that I wanted to find my sister. Mason looked at me with disbelief. What does it matter to him? Tears welled up in my eyes. You yourself have lost a loved one. We need to figure everything out. Mason looked at me for a long time, but still let me in. He said he would help because he wanted to find those responsible. We immediately began to execute the plan, to pretend to be a couple so that I would fake pregnancy. After a week of relations with Mason, I bought a pregnancy test and drew a second strip. And then I told my parents the happy news. I had to fake it for a couple of months, and not a single message came from Rose. Therefore, my determination only grew. With Mason's help, I made a fake belly, and then I pretended that I was not well. Weakness, nausea. What if something was wrong with the child? The elders looked at my sick appearance and gave permission to leave. Yes! Already in the evening, I was sitting on the bus, where there were several more pregnant women in the final months. Mason wanted to come with us, but the elders wouldn't let him. It was forbidden. When the bus started moving, I looked out the window, but Mason was nowhere to be found. It was kind of disturbing. On the way to the city, the bus suddenly turned into a forest lane and took us deeper. What was going on? We were dropped off in the middle of the forest, next to a summer house. I was put in a room with other pregnant women, but the others did not notice anything and cheerfully discussed their future life, and it seemed terribly suspicious to me. Why keep us here? Something was wrong. Soon, the elders came to our room and said that they would check the condition of the fetus before sending us to the hospital. They immediately took away one of the pregnant women, and I panicked. I would be exposed. I needed to do something. While the others were chatting, I quietly left the room and went to the window at the end of the corridor. I swung my legs over, my heart pounding. It was high. Closing my eyes, I exhaled and was just about to jump when suddenly someone grabbed me and dragged me back. The guard. I tried my best to pull away, but he was stronger. The big guy dragged me to the office where there was a check. The elder pulled up my dress to examine my stomach, and then my heart collapsed. No! He saw the false belly and immediately ordered to throw me into the basement. Not this! You've got it all wrong. But the guard threw me into a dark room in the basement. I started banging on the door. No, let me out. I have to find my sister. And at that moment, a voice was heard from the darkness. Rena? What? Rose? My sister was standing in the corner and also could not believe her eyes. Oh my god! I immediately threw myself at her with a hug. How did you get here? Rose pulled away and sadly said that the elders were waiting for the time when she gave birth. I froze in shock. But why would they do that? Rose said she didn't know, but she had to get out of here. She was desperate. No, we'll figure something out. I'll get you out. But then the guards burst into the basement and abruptly grabbed Rose. She desperately resisted. I started trying to fight her off, but the guard pushed me against the wall. Rose was taken away, and the second guard suddenly took out a syringe. The big guy was slowly moving towards me. I pressed myself against the wall. Was this the end? At the last second, someone suddenly hit the guard on the head with a board. He staggered and immediately fell. I froze and looked up at my savior. Mason, how did you get here? Do you think I would leave you alone? He smiled. Mason untied me and told me that he hid in the luggage compartment and came with us. But there was no time to rejoice. We had to save Rose. Together with Mason, we made our way to the street and suddenly heard a noise near the lake. I immediately followed the sound, looked out from behind a tree, and almost fell from shock. The elders held Rose in the water and made a speech. A weak mother will give birth to a weak child. Their sacrifice is for the sake of the prosperity of the community, so that there are no weak people in the society. Oh my god, were they going to drown Rose and the baby? I couldn't listen to it. That's enough. I needed to save her sister and nephew. There was no time to think. I ran to the elders as fast as I could and knocked one of them into the lake. But then the second elder grabbed me by the shoulders and lowered me under the water. I tried to pull away, but his grip was strong. I was out of air. I was already choking. This was the end. And then his hands weakened. I immediately surfaced and took a convulsive breath. Mason saved me again by knocking out the second elder. I exhaled, but at that moment, someone grabbed my leg and dragged me into the water. The first elder. Mason grabbed my arms and pulled me back. I struggled. and the elder hit his head on a tree and passed out. That was close. We needed to get out of here urgently before the guards came running. I wanted to get my sister out, but suddenly Rose screamed, clutching her stomach. She was giving birth. I was trembling all over, but I had to burst the baby right in the lake. A beautiful boy was born, and Mason and I swaddled him in clothes. At that moment, I heard shouts, "The guards!" It was necessary to run urgently, but Rose was exhausted. Mason took Rose in his arms. I took the baby, and we ran through the forest. We wandered in the forest, and an hour later came out on the road. We were lucky that a car was passing by. Kind people helped us and took us to the hospital. There, Rose and the child were taken to the ward, and Mason's and my wounds were patched up. It was all over. We were shocked when we first saw the city, their technologies and civilization. The elders kept the whole world a secret from us. Therefore, we without hesitation filed a police report against the community and put all the perpetrators in jail, including my parents. They knew about the crimes, but they calmly continued to live in this sect, and the pregnant hostages were returned to their husbands. 3 years later, everything got better. We got used to civilization, and now we live together with Rose and her husband and raise little Harry. Mason became his godfather. He loves our baby. I realized that you should not blindly believe everything that they say, as well as you cannot always judge from appearances. But the main thing is that I have family. They're alive and well. And it seems that there's something between Mason and me. Did you like the video? Subscribe and like it. Support the channel. Thank you.